To say that your horoscope begins and ends with a bang would be an understatement. This is an explosive week of astrology. Hi, my name is Comet, and welcome to Just Your Magic Monday, particularly your Magic Monday astrological forecast for the week of July 15th to July 21st, 2024, where we are gathered to discuss, just as we gather to discuss every single week with every single week of astrology here in my cosmic corner of the internet with a cosmic beverage in hand, what is ahead for your week ahead, how you will feel this astrological weather within your workplace, within your relationships, within your day-to-day life. And beyond just letting you know what it is that you can expect cosmically, we also strive here on Magic Monday to empower you with ways that you can work with the astrology co-creatively, how you can make sure to grab hold of some of the more opportune energies that are aligning for us within the week ahead, and how you can avoid some of the more disruptive energies within the week ahead. And when it comes to this particular week of astrology, there are some landmines. There are some potential explosions, potential disruptions that you'll want to be cautious of. And the reason I say this is because this week is bookended with some pretty intense energies. So the week starts off with Mars and Uranus aligning in Taurus. And this is an energy around simmering angers reaching a boiling point. You can find that you may feel inclined to want to lash out. You may be on the receiving end of other people lashing out. There is an energy where any sort of angers or conflicts that have been simmering may reach this activation point where we are more inclined to react a bit impulsively, potentially a bit recklessly. Now, this energy can be utilized to advocate for yourself in novel ways. It can be utilized to rebel on behalf of causes that hold a lot of value to you. This can be an energy around finally having this breakthrough moment. But some of us will be feeling a little bit of a breakdown moment. And that is also represented by the tail end of this week's astrology, where we have a Capricorn full moon. And you might be saying, Haley Comet, didn't you tell me about a Capricorn full moon last month? Yes, we have two Capricorn full moons back to back, and tonally speaking, they are quite different. And that is because this Capricorn full moon is sidled right by Pluto. And when it comes to this full moon, it's landed at 29 degrees Capricorn. This is the anaretic degree. It's a degree of urgency. It's the final degree of Capricorn. And so there is this energy with this full moon of a surrender, of a release, of an awareness around where it is that you are feeling called to let go of something, to release something, to shed something, and where it is that you're being asked to step into the future that awaits you. And this full moon can bring up some intense emotions. There could have been something that you wanted so deeply that you find with this full moon on Pluto, you have no other choice but to walk away, to let go, to trust in the power of renewal. And this full moon is really part of such a larger story, and I am so excited that I was able to do a Capricorn full moon forecast. You can check it out. I'll have it above as well as below to figure out what's going on with your particular chart. I wanted to do this because it's a big full moon. It's tying a ribbon on the Pluto and Capricorn story that's been baking since 2008. It's giving us hints and foreshadows for when Pluto retrogrades back in this exact sector of the sky a little later on this fall, 29 degrees Capricorn. And it's also hinting with its alignment to Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, where our next journey is unfolding. Now, of course, we'll talk about it. Not everybody is necessarily going to have this moment of this utter ending, of this release, of this surrender. Some of you may find with this full moon, it spotlights certain repressed fears that are coming to the surface. There could be an acknowledgement of where you are clinging to things that are not serving you. There could be even spotlights around your power. But one thing's for sure, when we have a full moon on Pluto, it's intense. And having strong Uranus in the cosmos this week and strong Pluto in the cosmos this week, this is a rather intense week of astrology. And the best way in navigating it, of course, we'll talk about it thematically and day by day, but it's important when it comes to the energetics of Uranus and the energetics of Pluto is to welcome in change, to no longer see change as an enemy. If you are feeling inclined to want to sink claw marks into something when you can feel it departing its life, you may be asked this week to let go, to try a new strategy, or to shed the past and look forward to the future, to shed your Pluto and Capricorn story like a snake and look forward to the upcoming evolutions that await you. Pluto and Aquarius. These are just two energies this week. We also have Mercury squaring Uranus. We have Mars entering Gemini, trining Pluto. We have Sun trine Neptune. There is a lot this week to get dialed into, and we will talk deeply about it. But before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. My loves, let me know what you are sipping on. As we move into this week, let me know what beverage is by your side as you get dialed into these energies. I am here with my own secret weapon, which is the productivity shot Magic Mind. So if you watch Magic Monday, you've heard me talk about Magic Mind. This is part of my daily routine. And as a Virgo moon and rising, my daily routines are very important to me. So I take my Magic Mind every morning along with my cup of coffee. And what I've found that since I started implementing this within my routine, I found that I no longer have a crash after the coffee begins to wear off. I've been able to wean myself off from second cups of coffee, third cups of coffee. I also find that I'm energized, certainly, but not in a jittery, anxious way that typically my second cup of coffee and my third cup of coffee will bring on. The magical thing about Magic Mind is that it has matcha, so it's definitely energizing, but because of the nootropics and the adaptogens that are also within, it allows you to have a much more grounded sense of productivity. It's a lot more focused. It's supportive in getting your brain into flow state so that you can feel energized to take on your tasks and feel focused enough to handle them. Because I know when it comes to this week's astrology with these Uranus energies and these Pluto energies, it's easy to feel out of control. It's easy to even feel scared or fearful around what awaits. And I know for me, when I overdo caffeine in my second or third cup of coffee, it's much easier for me to be in a very reactive, jumpy, fearful state that for me is not very productive. And having Magic Mind as part of my routine helps me feel grounded enough to be able to tell you the forecast for this week's astrology without allowing the slightly disruptive energies that are baking currently to make me feel scattered and all over the place, and thus unable to sit in the cosmic corner and tell you what to expect. And something that I deeply appreciate about Magic Mind is that they are dedicated to using the highest quality, cleanest ingredients, and they check every single batch, every single bottle of Magic Mind to ensure that it is up to their standards. And having Magic Mind as part of my routine allows me to start my day feeling energized, inspired, grounded. So if you also want to start your days feeling energized, inspired, and grounded, I deeply recommend trying out my productivity hack, Magic Mind. You can get 20% off using my code COMET when you check out the link within my description. It's also available within the pinned comment. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for keeping our Mondays magical here in the Cosmic Corner. I'm gonna go ahead and take my shot, and cheers, my loves. Here's to an unpredictable, interesting week of astrology. Okay, so now that we have taken our shot of Magic Mind, we are ready to take it into Vibe Check of the Week, which is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday, in which we compare this week's astrology and every week's astrology to a real life scenario. I'm not saying this exact situation is going to play out within your universe, but it is a metaphoric device in order to attune you to the overall vibe of the week, just in case the specific nuances of Mercury square Uranus and Venus sextile Jupiter and a full moon at the anaretic degree conjoining Pluto doesn't necessarily instinctively bring up an emotional response. So this week's vibe check, to get you familiar with the energy of the astrology you're stepping into, we will say that you are a realtor. You know, gotta keep it true to Cancer season, the sign of the home. We will say that you are a realtor, and you've been a realtor since 2008, which notably was not a great time for the real estate market. Looking at you, Pluto and Capricorn. But because you were starting at that time, you were able to learn a lot about the industry and kind of build from the ground up to that point. Fast forward to now, 2024, and you have been at your brokerage since you began in 2008. And the woman who owns the brokerage agency has mentored you. You've been under her wing and you've made a lot of money. Yes, your commission, but also for this brokerage. And you do attribute a lot of that to this individual's mentorship and guidance and support. However, you both are very strong personalities, and there has been a lot of clash between the two of you, just in how the two of you run things and how the two of you deal with leads and how the two of you deal with showings. You have gone head to head. But luckily, for the most part, you're able to kind of do your thing, run your own business, and you've been very successful. Asking around within the industry, you realize that the commission split that you have with your brokerage is actually not the industry standard. It's a bit below. And you know, yes, how much this person has supported you and really taught you how to be a realtor, but you also know how much you've supported this brokerage. You know how much energy you've put into building this brokerage. And since you have known your boss for all of these years, you decided to take this information to her, assuming that she would absolutely agree to your terms, that a higher commission split in your favor would absolutely be appropriate if that's the industry standard, if you've been at this brokerage for this long. And lo and behold, she does not see it the same. She thinks because of all of the time that she poured into you and how she shared her clients with you and how she has mentored you throughout all of these years, she feels the commission split as it is appropriate. And you obviously see it differently. And you can't help but to be triggered by this conversation, because this is a boss who continually preaches about how the brokerage is a family and we're all growing together. And you know that the commission split that you are asking for is not obscene. It is not outlandish. It is industry standard. And she is weaponizing the amount of time that you've been with the brokerage, as well as the emotional loyalty that you feel to her as your boss. Really, you just are a real estate agent under her brokerage, but nevertheless, you are under her wing or under the entity that she has built. And you're getting even more triggered because she is boiling down the success that you have had these past 16 years and attributing it solely to her mentorship, her guidance, her brokerage, which yes, did play a big role, but you hustled. You put your time and energy into this. You've been bringing her brokerage a lot of your leads. You have built your own client Rolodex. You have chiseled your own name in this city. And she seems to be taking ownership of it because you started under her. And this commission split is incredibly unfair when you consider the mastery that you've built within this industry within these past 16 years or so. Maybe this commission split would have been appropriate when you were just starting, when you didn't have a client Rolodex, when you didn't really know exactly what it is that you were doing, but it's no longer appropriate now, and she's not budging on that. And this is not how you thought the conversation was going to go. Because that's one thing about this week. We've got harsh Uranus energy. And when there's harsh Uranus energy, expect the unexpected. Events, conversations with Mercury square Uranus typically don't go the way that we think that they're going to go. And because you are so frustrated, and this just feels out of left field, you lash out. You get really frustrated. You allow that triggered part of you to kind of take control, and you end up having some choice words and an altercation with this individual because you are just so frustrated and you don't even know where it all came from, but it had been stewing because you have not been that happy at this brokerage. There have been a lot of shady things that have gone on. There have been a lot of listings that she has taken credit for. There's been a lot of your own success that's been brushed under the rug while she favors other agents. And all of that resentment has just been building and building. And this particular conversation is just so triggering that you let this individual have it. And so the two of you take some space. You're like, okay, this is much too tense. And keep in mind, you've known this person for a long time and you do have love for this person, but you do feel like that love that you have for her has been taken advantage of in this unfair commission split and how much money you've made her brokerage. So you guys take some space to calm down. And the more that you're in your own energy, you're like, yeah, I shouldn't have lashed out, but I still stand by what it is that I say. And it is clear to me that if this fair commission split is no longer honored, that is my final cue that it's time for me to leave. And part of that doesn't even feel conceivable to you because you have been at this brokerage since you were 25. Like, you've grown up a lot within this brokerage. You've always seen yourself as a realtor in the butterfly brokerage. I'm just saying that because the butterfly just flew by. So that's what we're going to call it. Butterfly brokerage. Buy a home from us today in the cosmic corner. I don't know. Anyways, you've identified with that. You pass your business card and say, you can find me at Butterfly Brokerage. Like, that has just been part of your identity. And it's almost inconceivable to you to think about a world outside of this cocoon that you have built that was safe, right? These agents, this boss, they were like a family. And it has nurtured your talent up to this point. But that altercation made you realize just how much resentment has been brewing, just how unhappy you've been here. But you stayed because it's comfortable, because you felt loyalty to the brokerage owner, because of this, because of that, because of this. But there's something within you that makes it clear that you are at the end of your rope here, that you can no longer continue in this path. And there's part of you that wonders, do I even want to sell homes? There's part of you that wants to walk away from selling homes altogether. There is a part of you that is curious to dive into something else. There is part of you that wants to open your own brokerage. There is part of you that wants to travel for a year and sell all your stuff. You don't know what the future has in store, but you enter this conversation with the certainty around, if this new commission split is not honored, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to fly away from Butterfly Brokerage. And so you go to this meeting with your boss, and even on the way there, you just have this knowing. It's not logical, it's not rational, but there's something within you that's just telling you it's time. And it's been a whisper. There's been times that you've been unsatisfied. There's been times that you did not agree with the brokerage's leadership, but you've never gotten to a point that you are at now where there's just this certainty around, I can no longer continue. Like, it's done for me. And that would have been inconceivable to you at different points in time, but there's something that's just telling you it's time for me to move on. And you don't know what the next chapter looks like. Like I said, you have different desires. It's scary to shed your comfort zone. It's scary to shed an industry that you've built. It's scary to shed what you've known at Butterfly Brokerage, especially since it homed a lot of your career success and a lot of your growth as a person. But all you know is that it's time to go. And when you know, truly. And that is the vibe when it comes to this week. So let's talk about how that scenario plays into this week's astrology. So the energy of feeling triggered is the Sun square Chiron that we start off the week with, where you could feel a little bit more sensitive. You could be like, do you not see me? Because Sun is our visibility, it's our ego. And there could be like a square where we're feeling ignored. We're like, hello, I've brought you so much business. I have done so much for you. Hello. And follow the ruler of that Chiron in Aries. The ruler of that Chiron in Aries is Mars aligning with Uranus also on Monday. So what part of us is being triggered? We are wanting to lash out. We are wanting to respond. We are wanting to advocate for ourselves in novel ways. Again, you even bringing up this conversation was not the norm. You weren't necessarily happy with the commission split, but it was bearable. So it was unheard of for you to advocate for yourself in this way. Typically, whatever the brokerage head said went. But with Mars Uranus, you could be advocating for yourself in novel ways. But the downside of this is that it can be this eruptive energy where you didn't even realize you've been holding on to all of this anger until one thing sets you off and you just lash out. And with Mars not dignified, Mars and Taurus, listen, they might come off as chill, but it builds, right? With Mars not in a comfy, cozy position. And with the energy of Uranus, there could just be random lash outs. There could be random breakdowns, random eruptions of anger. And the energy of even wanting more money or bringing up, I deserve to be making more money. I've been at your brokerage for the longest. I've been bringing in this amount of business, A, B, and C. That's the energy of Venus in Leo, sextile Jupiter in Gemini over the weekend. Trust me, it's not all Pluto and Uranus. At least we have a little sprinkle of the benefics holding hands on Sunday. Shout out to the cosmos for giving us something, jeez. But we do have that. You could be wanting to get paid more, right? Expand your resources with Venus sextile Jupiter. You could find your shopping more, wanting to spend more. The conversation not going the way that you thought that it would is the energy of Mercury square Uranus. Some of us are gonna have a record scratch moment around skirt, like, what? What did you just say? And some of us could feel this looking at our phone around, what did I just watch on TikTok? That was bizarre. Or what is this news story? Or what is my partner telling me? What is this wild, unexpected story that my coworker's telling me? There could just be some moments where you're like, wait, what? And keep in mind, as we get closer and closer to the weekend, there is a pressure cooker because we're getting closer and closer to the full moon in Capricorn. And this full moon lands at 29 degrees Capricorn, and it's rehashing a story that's been playing out since 2008. Hence why you've been at the brokerage since 2008. And with this full moon illuminating the final portion of the sky, there is a certain acknowledgement around, I've built what I've built. And with the energy of Pluto, I'm tired of these power struggles. I'm going to surrender. It's over for me here. Again, it's never over in the big picture. Your transformation is just taking you somewhere else. But what's important with this vibe check and with your life is that we all might not have clarity on what it is that we are being asked to step into. This full moon aligns with Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. It is at the precipice of the next journey. Like maybe there's ideas around I could open my own brokerage, I could travel, I could get a new job, but it's all still a little murky. But one thing is getting more and more certain: I cannot continue here. I cannot cling to butterfly brokerage any longer. I cannot deal with this disrespect any longer. It's just time for me to evolve. And it's not that we're all quitting our jobs this week, okay? It's not that we're all having a showdown with our bosses, but there is this theme around surrender and release. There could be something brewing, a change of some sort that you cannot resist. And there will be a temptation to cling. There was part of you that just wanted to be like, okay, forget the commission split, I'll stay here. I owe my entire career to you because you gave me that start back in 2008. There could be a temptation for you to stay in the cocoon. Okay, I'm good here. I'm feeling my wings develop beyond, but I'm cozy here. I don't say this in a fearful way at all, but the cocoon is disintegrating. There is an energy where we've got to get out of the cocoon or else we're never going to find our wings. This cocoon is falling apart. Okay, the time is now. And there's just an awareness around the time is now. And when you know, okay? And so I don't feel that everybody needs to make this external shift within the world. I just feel like there's something coming to light that is spotlighting the need for transformation within your world. And this is something to surrender into. And to, yes, grieve what it is that you could have released or lost since 2008, right? We're at the end of this Pluto and Capricorn journey, but also celebrate what you've built. When you have altercations like that, it can feel like a failure when you walk out on bad terms. But there needs to be an acknowledgement around, I built this business, I learned all these lessons, and now I'm taking all of that and taking it to the next iteration of my life. It was not a failure. A lot of times when we leave jobs, we could just think of the failed dreams that we thought that it was going to be, or could have done this and could have done that. Or if it's a relationship you're walking away, you have to walk away from the ideal of what it could have been. But there's just an ask to surrender. And so we'll give some more texture and nuance to this vibe check as we take it into our day-by-day analysis. I do want to let you know I am based in California, so I utilize the time zone PDT within my forecast. So make sure to adjust to your local time zone to ensure that you are noting the transits at the time that they happen for you, wherever it is that you are located. I also have timestamps available for you below should you feel called to jump to a particular day, should you feel called to jump back to a particular day. And I also want to let you know that YouTube has a feature where you're able to speed me up, you're able to slow me down in order to adjust my rate of speaking to your rate of processing. I will likely be in turbo Haley mode and talking a little bit faster than usual because I do not feel well at all. My tummy hurts. Being a woman, right? Being a woman. And I also am ready to go off on anybody who looks at me sideways. Thank God nobody's in the cosmic corner. I am in a mood today. So I feel like that also needs to be a disclaimer. If I'm coming off as more sassy today, it's because I am. It's because I'm grumpy. It's because I'm crabby. And I feel like this is kind of a sassy, grumpy, and crabby week. But we're gonna get through it. We're gonna giggle and gab through it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology forecast for Monday, July 15th. So happy Monday. We have a quite interesting cosmic lineup on Monday, but don't worry, we're still gonna make it magical. That's what we do here on Magic Monday. But there are some tense energies that we are moving into, many of which you could have felt over the weekend. Mars-Uranus builds very early, around 7 a.m. Oh my God, is there a fly in here? Because I don't have the mental state to handle there being a fly in here. I just don't. Okay. It's just a fly, I know. But there could be little things that get under your skin as well with Monday's astrology. And it's not about the fly, the reason that I'm so frustrated and crabby and grumpy right now, but it's like the final straw. And there just feels like there might be like a final straw for you as well on Monday, where you have somewhere for that frustration to be funneled towards. Like if anybody entered this room right now, let alone a fly who's a really unwelcome visitor, but even if it was like my celebrity crush, Andrew Garfield, he loves astrology, and so I love him. But even if he were to enter the room right now, I would probably be just as frustrated. Sometimes it's less so around what we're directing it towards, but just it piling on top of mountains and mountains of other frustrating situations within our world. And so you may want to be conscious of that. And you could have felt this build over the weekend, either you lashing out on the unintended final straw, other people lashing out on you being the unintended final straw. There is a certain energy where people might have very random, volatile reactions that you might think are kind of blown out of proportion. And I do want to say, outside of random flashes of anger and frustration, Mars-Uranus can also be accident energy. And I'm never a fear-mongering astrologer. If you're new to the Cosmic Corner, if you're new to my channel, I'm not here to incite fear, ever. I still live my life regardless of what the planets are doing. But it just wouldn't be the morning that I would bungee jump. You know, it just wouldn't be the morning that I would be speeding on the highway. It would not be the morning that I would try to fish the piece of toast that got stuck in the toaster out with a metal knife. It's just not that kind of morning. Like I would just be a little cautious as it relates to, accidents and things of that nature. Just try to stay grounded, because a lot of times when we're kind of like easily triggered and reactive, which it feels like we are on Monday, we're a little bit more likely to rear end somebody, to slam our finger in the door. Like we're more likely to make these mistakes because we are a little bit more frustrated and more reactive. So you'll just want to be conscious of that. That could have been building over the weekend. Now the up level of this energy, because it does exist, Uranus can be breakthrough energy. And if you have just had it up to here with a certain situation, like Mars-Uranus could be the energy around, no, this is not acceptable. I know my value with Mars in Taurus, and I'm going to advocate for my value. And the fly just flew somewhere here, so I apologize if you see him buzzing around. He's our guest host today. Haley Comet and the fly. There can be ways to leverage this positively, breaking through in novel ways. You could have a breakthrough with the project that you are working on. You could disrupt something that's felt very stuck. This is a fixed earth sign. So there could have been something that's felt very stuck, that's felt very stagnant. Maybe you've been in a rut. And this is the energy around breaking through the rut, trying something different, advocating for yourself in a new way, rebelling for a cause in a new way. There could be something around empowering novel, innovative solutions as an up level of this energy. But I do feel with the Cancer Sun squaring Chiron in Aries at 4:44 a.m., a lot of us are a little bit more triggered. And with Chiron and Aries answering to that Mars, we are lashing out from that space of being triggered. Hence why the first conversation within the vibe check went the way that it did. And you were not proud of the ways that you spontaneously advocated for yourself. You kind of went above and beyond, okay? But a part of you was triggered because with the energy of Cancer Sun, we cared. We put a lot into this. we considered this brokerage our family. And this particular conversation shows, oh, you don't see me. Because that is what could be coming through with Sun square Chiron, is feeling ignored or feeling like you care more about a situation, potentially with the energy of Cancer Sun. There could be a certain trigger around your own sense of identity and confidence around, if you don't think that I, as your agent who brings you a lot of business, deserves a fair split, that makes me almost question my confidence around, am I a good realtor? Our responses are our responsibility. How you respond is your responsibility. Do not let the heat of the moment allow you to lash out in ways that ultimately do not align with who it is that you are. And with Sun square Chiron, because you feel personally threatened, because you feel personally triggered, because your confidence feels attacked, there could be a part of you that wants to react from this very wounded place. There were parts within that conversation, yes, you were triggered because of your loyalty and because of how much you've put in there, but there's also parts of you that reminded you of past interactions where you were ignored. And that very feeling of feeling ignored or not being good enough or being discarded, that's what triggered you and made you react in the way that you did, which was not professional. And it's important, the part of us that we are making decisions from, like thinking of an internal control system. If the wounded part of you is making the decisions, it's hitting the buttons around, oh, you should yell and you should throw your coffee cup, that's not the part that needs to be in front of the control center. We can validate that part because really with Sun square Chiron, there could just be parts of you that do feel wounded, that are in need of nurturing, that are in need of support. So we can hug that wounded self within the control center, but they don't need access to those buttons. No, we're gonna keep the most empowered version of ourselves manning the buttons, where we're not denying the response, but we're not letting that part of ourselves hit the buttons, okay? Because we are evolving. And while we all have an inner child that exists within us and an inner teenager that exists within us and our wounded self that exists within us, like we do have these selves within, it's really important for you to step into your next timeline. Those are not the selves that are going to make the decisions that are going to align with that. And so as we evolve, our responses evolve, how we behave in situations evolve, how we behave in situations evolve, how we cope evolves, how we emotionally respond evolves. It all evolves. And it's not denying your past. It's not denying the parts of you that could feel ignored or feel wounded at this time. But it's honoring. For me to step into the next level of my growth that Pluto in Aquarius is hinting at, this is not the self who needs to be manning the buttons. And it's important for me to temper my responses so I'm not lashing out, having a temper tantrum, right? And you could also be on the side of people lashing out at you, and you may not be aware of the part of them that is triggered. Even if this is a stranger at the grocery store and you open your car door and you just lightly tap their car and they scream at you and you're like, it's not that big a deal, it was a car door. You don't know the morning that they had. You don't know the hell that they are navigating with. We don't know what people are going through. And perhaps you hitting that car validated one of their pain tapes, one of their wounds around, see, everybody hates me, the world is against me. It doesn't validate what they did, but it's just important to know on Monday that hurt people hurt people. And I know that could be so frustrating because it's like we all hurt, right? And there's some people that actively create more hurt and harm out in the world because of their own hurt, and then there's some that choose to, heal and deal with their own stuff. But it's important, especially with Sun square Chiron, it trines Neptune later on this week, work the muscle around seeing the spiritual dimension to situations. If someone makes you mad today, send them energetic puppies. My mentor told me this, and I talked to a couple of you on voice memos about this tip. But what this is if you are frustrated, you are mad about something with someone, you're going to close your eyes, you're going to see this person within your mind's eye, and you're going to picture them playing with a bunch of adorable puppies. And you will not feel the same way about that person after. It's hard to be mad at somebody who's playing with a bunch of puppies. And it's not that you need to forgive everybody necessarily this week. It could be a powerful week for that with Sun trine Neptune. But just acknowledging, at the end of the day, something that we all have in common is that we're all souls having a journey on this planet, and we all love playing with puppies. I mean, who doesn't? love playing with puppies. I just find that that particular visualization exercise helps me get back to the soul of the matter around, hey, we're all humans here in life school, trying to do the best that we can. It helps me like humanize the person a little bit. So if you're mad at someone, it might be helpful to visualize them playing with puppies, send them energetic puppies, and know that if you're on the receiving end of somebody just lashing out at you, just know that that's symptomatic of where it is that they are at, and they could be hurting in some way, and therefore in even more need of the energetic puppies that you are sending them. See where available to see the spiritual dimension of things, to even see, when this person's screaming at you because you accidentally brushed your car door to their car, like really seeing the spiritual dimension around, okay, the human level wants to defend and scream, like literally there's no damage at all to the car. We could take all the photos. There's absolutely nothing that was done. It barely tapped. And there might be part of you that wants to meet that poison with more poison and yell back, and everybody's tense. But with Sun trine Chiron and the Cancer Sun building to trine Neptune later this week, it might be a powerful week to see it from a spiritual perspective around, okay, this is a stranger who is screaming at me. They must need to be heard. They must not be feeling heard somewhere within their life. Let me just hear them out. Let me ask if I can buy them a coffee, and let me hope that my little sprinkle of kindness brought a little sunshine to their world in some way. They must really be in pain to be unleashing on me in this way. Another way that you could work with this energy is just knowing that you have the capacity to change your life at any moment in time. And you might be saying, well, Haley, Comet this, Haley, Comet that. The energy of Cancer Sun, we're comfy in our shell, okay? And sometimes with the Cancer Sun square Chiron, sometimes we're comfy in our excuses around, oh, I couldn't possibly leave butterfly brokerage even though I'm being underpaid for my hard work because of A, B, and C. Oh, I couldn't possibly try this thing because of this and that. Sometimes those excuses, though not empowering whatsoever, we can use as blankets to keep ourselves cozy in our little comfort zone, right? More and more excuses, and we're just kind of like in the comfort zone. It's not really serving me, but here are my blankets, here's my defense, here's my armor, so that I don't need to even contemplate the idea of doing something new. Because even though this comfort zone is hell, it's my hell. I'm cozy here. I'm not saying we're all in hell. I'm just saying sometimes we can be so fierce with defending our comfort zone, or why we couldn't possibly leave this thing that's not serving us, or change our habits, or start this business. Like sometimes we can get very fierce with it. And again, with Cancer being the past of how I've been brought up, because of how emotional I am, because of this, because of that. But with Chiron in Aries answering to Mars aligned with Uranus, it's like, why not? It's like challenging that comfort zone and maybe having a breakthrough around, I'm tired of watching everybody else start their poetry Instagram. I want to start mine. It's vulnerable, it's scary, but what's holding me back? Let me put energy towards it. I'm so sick of these excuses. I'm so sick of what I've been telling myself to keep myself in my comfort zone so that I don't dare getting hurt. Because that's really the energy of Cancer Sun square Chiron, is we could feel hurt because we've been hurt, and we're going on the offense because we don't want to get hurt again. And life is messy, it's dramatic, it's big, it's losses, it's gains, it's all of the things. And so if you've been trying to stay in your comfort zone with your blankets, it's because you don't want to get hurt again. With Mars, Uranus, it could be this energy around throwing off those blankets and empowering a new strategy. And those energies happen relatively early on Monday. So you could have felt this build really on Sunday. But at least from a PDT standpoint, the more that we go on with the day, things do kind of simmer down. Now, keep in mind, we have a very dramatic full moon on Sunday, so things are heating up 1 degree and 1 degree, and that's the real boiling point. But that's why this week's vibe check had a cadence where it's like, altercation, we took some time to cool off, final altercation. Your week might kind of have that vibe in terms of just kind of drama and intensity of it. But later on in the day, we have the moon who's in Scorpio all day long. So again, feeling things intensely, but at least it does trine Saturn. So it's really this energy around, okay, I had this altercation at the grocery store. What can I do to calm down, to make myself happy, to ground down after my blood pressure raised because a stranger was yelling at me, or I had this uncomfortable conversation with my boss, or my partner kind of lashed out at me. With the energy of Scorpio moon, it's allowing yourself to feel those deep feels, but with the trine to Saturn, again, that's not the part of us that's at the control center, deciding the next steps. We are loving on the part of us that's feeling hurt, that's feeling even abandoned with Cancer Sun squaring Chiron, that's feeling ignored. We're loving that side of ourselves, but we're not allowing that side of ourselves to make our decisions and thus run our life. And so with the energy of Scorpio moon trine Saturn, it could ask you, what do I need to get myself into a balanced state? Like, what can I give myself in order to feel better, to feel more grounded? And that evening might just be nice to do something nice for yourself, to just ground down, to allow that emotional side up. Like if you've not had to suppress, but if you had to move the emotional side away from you, away from the control center around what actions to take next, that evening might be a nice time to be like, hey, okay, emotional self, come here. What do you need to do? Okay, watch a movie. Okay, make a delicious meal. Okay, let's soothe the emotional self. And that evening, I just want to say the Scorpio moon will square Mercury in Leo. Again, fixed energies are clashing here. And so this just wouldn't be a very productive day for conversation. Keep in mind, we're easily triggered, okay, with that Mars-Uranus energy. It may be separating now, but there could be an energy where we're misunderstanding, or again, we're not feeling heard or validated for our perspective, or we're not able to fully take our emotions out of a situation and communicate logically. It just wouldn't be my ideal time for a really important conversation. But it is an important time, Monday evening that is, to just do things that make you feel good, that soothe yourself, that soothe your nervous system, that allow you to regulate your emotions, that bring you back. That's going to be really important as we move through the week, to have those rituals or those things that you do in order to take care of yourself. On Tuesday, July 16th, the earthquake of Mars and Uranus aligning the day prior may be separating now, or a little bit more calm, but Tuesday does feel like the aftershocks of sorts, because the Scorpio moon does activate that Mars-Uranus energy. And just a PS on that, again, I'm not a fear-mongering astrologer, but sometimes there can be unusual weather, things of that nature with Mars and Uranus getting together. But there is kind of an energy where that triggered energy could have some aftershocks today. And sometimes being triggered doesn't even necessarily look like screaming at people in parking lots, because who does that, right? Or screaming at flies in the cosmic corner. I don't know who would do a thing like that. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it can be being quite jumpy, being quite flustered, being quite all over the place, being nervous and not being able to shake it. Like that kind of feels like the energy that you could feel on Tuesday, where you could feel to be on pins and needles about something. You could be quite reactive. Someone says your name and you're like, what? You're like, oh, you're saying my name? Okay, got it. Like you could find that you're a little bit more triggered, like of a physical sense or of a mental sense, or you could just be on pins and needles as you navigate Tuesday, just with the Scorpio moon, which again, the moon is in its fall in Scorpio, opposing Uranus around 11 a.m. and then its ruler, Mars, in Taurus around 1 p.m. So kind of midday, there's like this jumpy energy. There could be unexpected things. There could be unexpected emotions that are coming in. Early in the morning, you do have some nice watery energy to work with. We have a waxing gibbous moon, right? We're building and building to that full moon. And keep in mind, it's Cancer season. So full moons hit different in season of the moon, okay? And so we're building and we're in kind of that preparatory energy. And with this water energy, like I was talking about yesterday, it's gonna be important to have compassion for others, but also have compassion for yourself. Gosh, I wish I could remember who commented this. It might have been a year or so ago, and I just want to let you guys know, I read every single comment on Magic Monday. It is the bright spot of my week. I love it so much. You guys share so much wisdom within the comments section, okay? I'm sorry, I don't know. But seriously, I read them all, and there was something that someone wrote, and I want to say it was a year ago, and they basically said, when you're very kind of jumpy and reactive and anxious and nervous, it's really important to have compassion with yourself, because likely your nervous system is just kind of in this fight or flight zone, which just means you're in need of some soothing. So I know it's pretty warm in a lot of places on the globe, but I always find that hot cups of tea can be quite soothing. Maybe even having an essential oil roller on your desk that you can just sniff in order to calm down. Maybe it's a poem that you read, maybe it's a comfort creator that you watch, but just something that just reminds you it's gonna be okay. Because Uranus energy doesn't always come in around, oh my gosh, this random unexpected thing happened and everything's different. A lot of times Uranus energy just can feel kind of jumpy and like nervous and like on pins and needles. And sometimes we could be feeling these fears with this full moon that's not necessarily conducive. Our mind could be overthinking around, what destruction is going to await me with this full moon on Pluto. There could just be this intensity brewing. And when you're energetically tapped in, you know that something's changing. A lot of times your body can react by being a little bit more reactive, so to speak, or a little bit more flustered, because there could be an energy around whatever's around the bend is scary because it's unknown. So it must be horrible. It must be my doom. And it's important not to let yourself go too far down that path. You can love that part of you that's scared, that's fearful within, but allow yourself to contemplate, what if it's even better? What if it's even more aligned? What if I leave butterfly brokerage and that's scary, but what if I step into my true life's work? What if this transformation from this relationship that's no longer serving, or from this fear that's been holding me back, who will I meet on the other side of this Pluto portal? And again, when we don't know, when it's a little dim at this moment, we can assume the worst and feel very jumpy, or even overthink trying to figure it out. That's one thing about Uranus energy, is that whatever it is that you're thinking, when I talk about this unexpected conversation over the weekend, when I talk about these unexpected conflicts on Monday, whatever popped in your pretty brain around, I bet that's going to be the unexpected conflict, or I bet that's going to be the unexpected conversation, in the most loving way possible, you are wrong. You might be right, but I'm saying the energy of Uranus is what's expected. So if you expect that, that's probably not your Uranus story. I also apply that when it comes to the Uranians in my life, those who have strong Uranus energy. Whenever I imagine, oh, they're probably going to text me at this point, or oh, they're probably going to take me to a date to this place, or they're probably going to show up wearing this. Whenever I try to predict the behavior, I'm always wrong. And sometimes I get disappointed when I concoct like a scenario that I like around, oh, maybe this Uranian will invite me here and we'll do this. And I'm like, dang it, now it won't happen because I expected it. Try not to overthink or imagine what this Uranus energy is going to be, or what this Pluto energy is going to be, because we just could be feeling a little bit nervous on Tuesday and maybe even assuming the worst. You know, Scorpio moon is no stranger to sometimes doom thinking. So it might just be helpful to just ground yourself, soothe your nervous system in whichever way that you can. The Scorpio moon does trine Neptune. So again, that same practice, sending other people puppies on Monday, maybe send yourself puppies on Tuesday, right? Like seeing yourself as just a soul trying to do your best. Maybe you have to extend forgiveness to yourself. Maybe you just have to see the soul within yourself around, hey, you're trying. Like, it was a hard day and you did your best. It's like, it's important to have that compassion with yourself, which we just see with the Scorpio moon trining Cancer sun in the morning, and then the Scorpio moon trining Neptune in Pisces. Have grace with others, certainly, but have grace with yourself. If you're beating yourself up with mom guilt, if you're beating yourself up because of a work mistake, if you're beating yourself up because maybe you let the Uranus energy the day prior get the better of you and you reacted in a way that you're not proud of, again, with the energy of Neptune, this feels soothing. This feels like doing what it is that you need to do to get yourself back into a more regulated, balanced state. The moon will enter Sagittarius at 6:25 p.m., going on to sextile Pluto in Aquarius. So this feels like the story within the vibe check around that optimism is building. Again, we can fear the worst and see that dark, shadowy abyss that awaits us on the other side of this major transformation and project our deepest fears around, I'm going to be a failure, and the last, 16 years of my being a realtor are all for naught. Like, we could project our deepest fears, but we could also project, maybe it's all going to work out. And the energy of Sagittarius moon, sextile Pluto is, maybe it's all going to work out. Maybe it's going to be even better than I could have imagined it. Maybe I'm going to meet new sides of myself. How can I be excited by the possibilities rather than fearful of them? That's an ask on Tuesday evening. On Wednesday, July 17th, the moon continues on in free-spirited, adventurous Sagittarius moon all day long, trining Venus in Leo at 8:08 a.m., and then going on to oppose its ruler, Jupiter in Gemini at 4:20 p.m. And especially with the Sagittarius moon trining Venus in Leo, it's important to do those things that make you feel good, that make you feel confident. And honestly, what today's astrology gives me, and I'm not saying everyone's gonna have a meltdown, but what today's astrology feels like is that moment after a meltdown, and I pray that this is relatable or else you guys are gonna think I'm nuts, but after a meltdown, you felt your feelings, you cried, and then finally you're like, okay, I need to switch the playlist. I cannot listen to sad music any longer. You switch to your, confidence mix. You switch to your empowerment mix. Like you're like, okay, it's time to remember who it is that I am. Like the tears have been dried and now it's time to step back into my confidence. Like this was all in the same morning for me. I just had a sad mix. I didn't even know Spotify made them, but they make like a sad mix just for you. So I listened to my sad mix, cried my tears, and then once the tears were gone, I was like, all right, I'm kind of sick of crying. Like I need to go back to living my life. So I put on my confidence mix and I felt better. I felt renewed. And the reason I say that for Wednesday, it's not that there's an emotional tone. It just feels like, the Scorpio moon, Mars, Uranus, there could have been outbursts, there could have been stuff. It's a little emotionally charged, right? And the energy of Sagittarius moon trining Venus and Leo feels like that moment of putting on the confidence mix around, okay, I grounded my nervous system after that altercation. I felt my feels. Maybe I cried to the sad mix. And it's time to step into the baddie that I am. And it's time to step into the baddie that I am. And yeah, can we get a little delusional or like overly optimistic sometimes when we're in that energy, like listening to music, just being like, I am the baddest of them all. I am going to start a new brokerage that's going to be even more successful than Butterfly Brokerage. I mean, who's to say that you aren't the baddest of them all? And who's to say that you won't start a new brokerage that's more successful with Butterfly Brokerage? But sometimes we kind of puff ourselves up a little bit when we're listening to that sort of music. And sometimes we need that, okay, to kind of like gather strength for the final ordeal. Like there's something about this week's astrology that reminds me of Hero's Journey, which I know I reference quite a bit. But before the final ordeal, I know there's a time in which the protagonist kind of comes inward to gather strength. And it feels like you might be doing that on Wednesday with the help of your go-to hype up artist, whoever that may be. And sometimes it helps us to just gather the strength to be able to like listen to the affirmations that are in music. Listen, music has so many affirmations. I love particularly rap music for affirmations. There's so many like just affirmations and mantras that are really helpful to have within your mind, especially if you're stepping into something uncomfortable. And yeah, sometimes can we be a little over idealistic or over optimistic around, I'm going to march into that meeting with Butterfly Brokerage and I'm going to give her a piece of her mind. Yeah, we're being a little over optimistic, but sometimes we need that energy to just kind of build up our confidence to prepare for the final ordeal, right? Or the final showdown or what have you with the Capricorn full moon. It just feels like on Wednesday, there's just an energy around doing things that are charging us up, things that are reminding us of the bright side of life, of the bright sides of ourselves. Just feels like with the Sagittarius moon trining Venus and Leo would be a great day to get ready. If you're not feeling yourself, you can dramatically shift the vibe just by getting ready, putting on some makeup. You guys heard me from last week's Magic Monday, wear the glitter eyeshadow, right? I wear jewelry every single day, whether I leave the house or not, because there's something energetically about just putting on jewelry that helps me show up just more confidently. And it also is helpful for bouncing off energy. I learned that. I learned lip gloss and jewelry is helpful for bouncing off energy if you just kind of need to return energy to sender. I don't know if that's true. An intuitive told me that, and hey, I love any excuse to wear jewelry. So I'm saying on Wednesday, wear the jewelry, remember who it is that you are, do what charges you up. Maybe that's not playlist for you. Maybe that's spending time in nature. Sagittarius moons are great for hiking. Maybe that's time at the beach. Maybe that's time with the people that you love. Maybe that's time with your nose in an astrology book. Anything that helps you either return to the bigger picture with the energy of Sagittarius, like in this wide, wonderful world, why am I having an altercation with this person in the parking lot? Like Wednesday could be a day to return to that, or just return to your own sense of optimism, your own sense of, oh, everything's gonna be okay. And I will say on Wednesday in terms of work and tasks, sometimes with moon opposite Jupiter, that happens at 4:20 p.m., sometimes we're a little over optimistic or idealistic with how much we can get done. Sometimes we are more prone to excess or very big emotional responses. So also something to be mindful of. Editing Haley here. I apologize for the brief interruption in this packed week of celestial happenings. I forgot to highlight while recording that today, Wednesday, July 17th, is the day that Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow phase. Now, what does this mean? Mercury, the planet of intellect and communication, has now officially entered territory of the sky that it will revisit, as next month, August 2024, Mercury will station retrograde, moving from Virgo to Leo. And so from this point onward, I would just be cautious as it relates to launching anything brand new, signing anything brand new, initiating brand new conversations. And it's going to be important. Just pay attention to what's coming up, to what conversations you're having, to what ideas you're having, especially with Mercury square Uranus over the weekend. There could be something unexpected that comes up that is an ongoing story that may be critical to Mercury retrograde. So you'll just want to pay attention to what comes up around Mercury arenas of your life, and you'll just want to be extra conscious that Mercury retrograde is on the horizon, so just be mindful when it comes to anything that is brand new. So on Thursday at 7 a.m., the Cancer Sun will sextile Uranus in Taurus, and this is the sort of Uranus energy we like. It's soft, it's subtle, it's a sprinkle of Uranus. There can just be a sprinkle of something unexpected but divine into your day. And maybe that's an event, maybe it's an version of yourself, right? In preparing for this conversation with the individual who runs your brokerage, just having some contemplations around who could I be if I was traveling around the world? Or what would it be like for me to start my own brokerage? Or what if there's other passions I want to pursue? It just feels like a little flicker around the what if, or the flicker of inviting in a novelty with how it is that we identify or how it is that we see ourselves. Because that's the scariest thing about staying in that cocoon too long until it's disintegrating, is the loss of getting to know who we would be as a butterfly. That is what's so fascinating with every single transformation, is meeting the self that you evolve into. And with Sun sextiles Uranus, it just feels like there's an energy around conceptualizing that you could be a different person. You could be somebody who traveled the world. You could be a brokerage owner. You could say, I'm overselling homes, I want to paint. You could. You have these different dynamics to you. And with Sun sextile Uranus, it's not that we're embodying them all, but there feels like a sprinkle around who could I be? Because with every transformation, it's a different version of ourselves. Like, think about who you've been in the past relationships that you've had. Think about who you've been in the last jobs that you've had. You're still the same person who have the same roots and the same upbringing, the same past, what have you, but you meet new sides of yourself in different environments, in different positions, in different relationships. New sides of yourself come alive. And so if you've been fearful of change, it's an invitation to perhaps soften your relationship to it, getting excited about the versions of yourself that you could meet by welcoming this change into your world. Now, for others of us, there could just be exciting energy in the air. We could just want to do something new. We could want to play hooky. From work. We could want to create in a new way. There could just be an energy around a little sprinkle of novelty, a little sprinkle of genius, also with the energy of Uranus. And pay attention to where you feel those electric surges, because those can tell you something. Just that flicker of like, there's something there. Like, when I think about the different paths that I go, if I do decide during this conversation to walk away from butterfly brokerage, when I think about traveling the world, I just feel a surge, like something just activates within me. Or when I think about owning my own brokerage, there's something within me that stirs. Like, paying attention to those little hints and cues. And it doesn't even necessarily need to come through visualizing. It could be reading a story that kind of resonates with you, or finding a creator online that kind of resonates with you, or reading a particular poem that just kind of enlivens something in you. Pay attention. If you don't already, last week I talked to you about happy folders to review when you're having imposter syndrome or things of that nature. This week I'm going to talk to you about inspiring folders, which is basically a folder, mine's on my phone, that I keep and I screenshot anytime that I just read something that I'm inspired by, or listen to a song that I'm inspired by. And then it's just kind of this bank. So if I'm feeling low energy, if I'm feeling over it, I can revisit that bank of inspiring content. And we have a lot of fire on Thursday. So again, that fire, that spark, that desire, it's telling you something. It is hints. It is clues. Passion is energy. Passion is trying to tell you something. So your inspiring folder, looking through it, being like, what's inspiring me lately? What's the content I'm seeking out? What's the quotes that I'm gravitated towards? Another folder that I have on my phone is my healing folder, which ties in completely with Mercury, trine, Chiron, where I'll screenshot podcast episodes or screenshots from articles that I'm reading or quotes that I find that are soothing for the soul on what it is that I'm going through, where I can revisit if, I'm mid-sad mix on Spotify, going through some stuff so I can revisit it. And my healing folder contains a couple different kinds of content. Like, there's some where it's like, this resonates with me, this song is like exactly what it is that I'm going through. There's other pieces where it's like research around what is happening within your brain when this happens, because it helps me not feel so crazy when I'm reacting in the ways that I'm reacting, when I understand what my brain is going through with that. And I also will save pieces that help me affirm that this is for the best, because even if you make a decision that's for the best, it will still hurt. Like that walking away from Butterfly Brokerage, that was not easy. You invested a lot there. You knew it was the right decision, but that doesn't make it any less painful. And sometimes there are decisions that we make in life where we know logically this is what's best, but it makes it hard in those moments that we feel scared around what our professional future will be, or we feel lonely, or we feel not good enough. We feel not good enough. We have those, late night hours where we're thinking about things not being rational. It helps to revisit it, to affirm this is the right decision. You're just in a moment where you're feeling more raw, you're feeling more vulnerable, you're not seeing the world clearly. And it helps me to have quotes, articles, research, even text messages I have in there that just kind of affirm you made the right decision. You're going in the right direction. And that feels important to mention because we have the energy of the Sagittarius moon. Just because something hurts doesn't mean that it wasn't the right decision. And with Mercury being our mind, it might help to conceptualize mentally your situation, to review the facts and data of what it is that you're going through and why you made the decision that you did. Even if you didn't make a decision necessarily, something could be good for you and still be painful. And so it's helpful to remind yourself the facts and the logic around why this person ghosting you is actually a good thing, because why would you want to be with somebody like that? Or why this freelance job deciding to part ways is actually a good thing, because now you can focus on your own business. Obviously, there's going to be pain in that. There's going to be, with Sun squared Chiron earlier in the week, there's going to feel rejection energy in that. But with Mercury trine Chiron, it's getting back to the logic of the situation and even affirming with mantras, affirmations, conversations with those that you love, why this will be helpful long term. You can feel the feels of it, but just remember to logically remind yourself of why this is actually a good thing. And that energy is sort of woven into the vibe check, because in the morning, even though the moon's in Sagittarius all day long, there does feel to be something in the morning time where we're just not feeling it. We've got the Sagittarius moon squaring Saturn in Pisces. So we could be feeling suffocated by our responsibilities. Maybe the day prior with Sagittarius moon opposite Jupiter in Gemini, we're like, oh, I don't need to check my email, or oh, I'll handle it later. And then Sagittarius moon squaring Saturn in Pisces at 5:49 a.m. PDT, waking up to a text saying, why didn't you do this? Or this could just be an energy around wanting to adventure and feel free, but feeling very stuck and suffocated. It could just even be this energy around, I have to do dishes again. Didn't I just do dishes? Or you go to make your eggs and toast and you're out of eggs and you're like, for real? It's like nothing too dramatic, but with the square to Saturn, it's just like annoying. But the day goes on and the Sagittarius moon creates a grand trine with Mercury and Chiron. So again, fiery energy. So again, pay attention to what's inspiring you. Pay attention to what lifts your mood after the eggs weren't there and your partner snoring woke you up and you had that mean email from your boss. What lifts your mood? And really be intentional around spotlighting that and expanding it. Really important day for gratitude work. Really hone in on what it is that you are grateful for today. I know there could be certain arenas of your life that feel like they are crumbling and chaotic and a mess. And it's important to attune to what within your life is going well, because those things are subtle. They're background noise, and we tend to take them for granted around my career is such a mess, that there's so much drama, but I have these amazing pets and I have this amazing home and this is going well. It's like subtle until a life arena is not doing well, and then it gets a lot of our attention. So pay attention to the life arenas that are doing well, where it's like there might be aspects of your life that feel like they're a mess, but you have your health. These things, there's so many blessings that are subtle. There's so many blessings that are background noise. And so this might be an important day to grab hold of it, expand it, pay attention to the inspiring folder, what raises your mood. There is a nice energy of returning back to the bigger picture. Because again, if you've already had a hard week, the eggs not being there and your partner snoring and the mean email could just feel like the end of the world, but there feels to be this fiery grand trine, like returning to the big picture around life goes on. I'll get more eggs. My partner will hopefully get their snoring together. I will solve this issue with my boss. Life goes on. Big picture. Perspective. And again, maybe that's returning you to the big picture of what your life is now. Maybe with that Sun sextile Uranus, it's getting back to the big picture around this is just one job, this is one chapter of my life. Who knows who I could be in the next? Who knows what could be in the next? Again, remember to work that soft, subtle flow of energy of Sun sextile Uranus around who could I be? What could be? Maybe that's the big picture perspective around what other possibilities and thus what other versions of self you could meet within this wide, wonderful world. And that evening, I do want to say the Sagittarius moon is building to square Neptune, so your dreams could definitely be interesting. We also have Sun trine Neptune over the weekend, so definitely your dream world could be quite active. Sometimes with moon square Neptune, we kind of want to escape reality, escape into our own world. We could feel more sleepy. We could be feeling more intuitive. We could want to do an angel meditation. We could want to take a spiritual bath. There could just be an energy around returning to the big picture of our soul as well, with the Sagittarius moon building to square Neptune. It exacts early on Friday. Friday, July 19th. As I highlighted yesterday, the Sagittarius moon will square off with Neptune in Pisces. This energy exacts at 12:58 a.m. So just expect some interesting potential messages within your dream world. You could be feeling more sleepy, more intuitive, more mystical. And then the moon enters Capricorn, the sign of the full moon, at 1:14 a.m., where it stays all day. As we've been talking about all Cancer season long, Cancer is governed by the moon. And so the moon energies we deeply and strongly feel. And so we've got the moon in its detriment. The moon does not like being in Capricorn in a full moon. So just sometimes there could just be uncomfy emotions building, especially with the alignment to Pluto. Just certain contemplations that emerge from within that don't make us feel so comfortable. Because once we know something, once we realize something, then we have to do something about it. So already we've got an intense full moon because we're in season of the moon. The moon is in a sign that it does not particularly want to be in. And then it's buddied up with Pluto. And so there could be some intense emotions brewing, some intense, stark realizations that you would rather not face. That's what I love about the Capricorns in my life is, they're very compassionate, they're very loving, but they'll give it to you straight, okay? And this full moon is giving it to you straight, no chaser, okay? It's aligned with Pluto. There's something that might be uncomfortable to acknowledge that is coming to the surface. And it might be within you. You could have known in your subconscious mind, it was brewing. I've got to go. I've got to go. Butterfly brokerage. I don't agree with how this place is being ran. I don't love my name being associated with there. I've got to go. Or maybe it was even, I'm sick of selling houses. I'm sick of selling houses. There's other parts of me that I'm wanting to explore. But this full moon on Pluto, we can't ignore it. We could have ran from it before. We could have suppressed it. But there's something with this full moon on Pluto that's making us face to face what needs change or what needs transformation or what within our life is being released. Because not all of us are necessarily going to make a decision of transformation. Some of us could just be asked to acknowledge during this time that something within our life is done. And maybe we're making the decision, maybe the decision is being made for us, but there is an ask for surrender with this full moon building and with this Capricorn full moon getting bigger and bigger in the sky. And so Friday, that is the only energy. It's just the moon's in Capricorn all day, which is a pretty productive energy. But with the full moon, emotions can be running high. People can be a little bit more hectic. People can be a little bit more frantic. You might have more people calling you, talking about how they want to move, or talking about how they want to break up, or talking about how they met someone that they're running off with. Like, people could be acknowledging these big shifts potentially, or just acknowledging everything in my life feels wrong. I need a complete overhaul. I need a completely new life. Like, there could just be something like that brewing. And it's not that you need to change it all this weekend, but there's an ask with the full moon building and building to just acknowledge where it is that you are suffocating growth by keeping yourself stuck within an outdated cocoon. Because you know that you were not learning anything at Butterfly Brokerage any longer. You had learned all that you could learn from your mentor. You knew that your growth had stagnated there. And so while it's uncomfortable to face that around, okay, it's time for something new, there's energy around acknowledging that. And it might be tough love. Somebody else could give you tough love. You could be giving yourself tough love. But with the moon in Capricorn, it's like, really look at the reality of the situation. Put the person in the control center who's responsible for tough love, right? And like keeping it real with you around, listen, I know it's scary because you have to face your fears. I know you have an emotional connection to your boss and you want their validation, but let's look at the facts. Let's look at the data. Let's be real with ourselves. That's really the ask with the full moon, and it does feel uncomfortable. And it's important because this change is looming, okay? As we navigate the day, Mars is at the anaretic degree, so there could be this energy of now or never brewing. And we also see that baked into the full moon on Sunday. It's at the 29th degree, the urgent degree. It's by Pluto. So a lot of people might have this urgency around, I need to change my life now. I need to move. I need a new job. I need a new identity. I need a new relationship. And again, it's not that I'm advocating against change. This is a week of change. But don't feel like you need to do it all right now. Like this full moon is a little bit of a pressure cooker. And like I said, we have Mars Uranus separating, so we could be a little bit more impulsive. You will know if you are meant to take action with this full moon. I feel very confident in that, especially with the energy we'll talk about tomorrow with Mars sextile Neptune. And it might just be important on Friday to mind your reactions, mind your impulses, strive to stay grounded. Self-care during full moons, extra important. Saturday, July 20th. So today is the day that Mars enters Gemini, but before it does, it sextiles Neptune around 8 a.m. And this is the energy I was saying yesterday, where I was saying, don't feel like you need to change everything this weekend, or that you need to end something impulsively with this now or never energy. You will know if that's for you. I do feel like some of us will be doing that, and you will know. Some of us are just having the acknowledgement that change is coming. Some of us are releasing a fear. Some of us are acknowledging just how much we've transformed and grown since 2008, right? I did do a Capricorn Full Moon All Signs forecast, so make sure to check that out if you have not, if you want to get specific on where this is landing within your chart. But this is not a full moon that's necessarily driving every single person to change our entire lives. What a chaotic weekend that would be. But you will feel a whisper. And with Mars sextile Neptune, it really is that whisper around following your intuition to take action. And it just reminds me of quitting my last normal job, my 9 to 5, to go pursue my own stuff, which was very scary. It was very scary at the time. And it had been about a year or so that I was aware that I had outgrown my role there. I'd learned all that I possibly could have learned. I was starting to feel my motivation wane. And it was so weird because there was just one day where it was just done. It was just done. I had panicked in the building up to it, just being like, when am I going to quit? When is it going to be right? I would go over and over numbers around, well, my yoga makes this, and if I book this many readings, then maybe I'll be able to work financially. It was like mentally I was trying to figure out when's the right time and looking at my transits and trying to figure out when. And then just one day I just knew. There was no other option. I just knew in my gut, in my soul. And that clarity took me aback because I was just overthinking and just in fear for so long. And then just one day I just knew. And I followed my intuition. And that was really scary. We had a family trip planned to Costa Rica like a week after I quit. And so that was when I told my parents, like, oh, by the way, I don't have a job when I get back. I was like trying so hard to have a good time, to sip, margaritas on the beach and enjoy myself. But like my rational mind was like, what did you just do, girly girl? You just quit your job. But it worked out beautiful. And I just think of that self who was clinging to that particular role. And I just wish I could tell her, like, you just don't even realize like the magic that awaits you on the other side. It's like easy when I was in that fear mindset around being like, I'm gonna have to move out of San Diego. I'm not gonna have enough money to eat. Like it was very easy for me to be in that fearful state, but releasing that position actually allowed me to earn more and to build my own business and all of these other beautiful blessings that came into my life shortly after releasing. And I was clinging to that position. And it served me, that cocoon served me for the period that it did, but there was so much beauty awaiting me and there's so much beauty awaiting you too, for whatever it is that you are clinging to. But you will know when it's time to release. You will know it's time to release. I was trying to rack my brain around the numbers and the calculation, if I just do this and if I do this, and that is helpful. Okay, if you are gonna quit your job, it is helpful to have your emergency fund and to line up some stuff, but it comes to a space where you just know. And that gives you courage with Mars, because that's what I was looking for, is my intuition to tell me, okay, it's time. Because there's only so much our mind can do. There's only so much our mind can figure out. And sometimes you just get that gut instinct and you just need to follow it. And outside of that, this would be a great day for like a spiritual workout class, for a yoga class. This would be a great day to follow your intuition, to go on a walk and allow yourself to get lost. Just allow spirit to guide you, to follow your instincts, to even have compassion for a conflict of some sorts, send some people some energetic puppies. Maybe you had like a hike on Saturday morning and you're like, ooh, that altercation in the parking lot, I was just really stressed. It was a long day at work. And now that I did things that I loved and I charged up my soul space and I got out in nature, now it doesn't feel like as big of a deal. Like it just feels like an energy where we're seeing any conflicts from a higher perspective, potentially. And then Mars, the planet of action and assertion, will enter Gemini at 1:43 p.m. So this is good news for Mars because Mars did not particularly enjoy being in Taurus. Now this energy can divide our attention. With Mars in Gemini, you definitely could be feeling a burst of more communicative energy, of more inspired energy. With Mars in Gemini, you might be more persuasive. You might even feel more inclined to get into a hobby that uses your hands in some way. Great way to move through any potential anxious energy with the full moon on Pluto is to do something physical, do something with your hands, craft, something of that nature. With Mars and Gemini, you can also find that you are more inclined to get your way via your words, okay? Gift to the gab can be aligned. You might feel more motivated to enroll in a class or to learn something new. You might find you're more inclined towards multitasking. You know, Gemini governs the twins, so you could be wanting to do more than one thing at once, which could distract your energy a bit. And in terms of how it is that we advocate for ourselves with Mars and Gemini, this is like you coming to the conversation armed with your points, armed with your logic, right? Ready to fight the battle via words. That's really the energy of Gemini. So definitely you could be communicating more. You could be more inclined to tell people how you feel, especially if you are incensed in some way. And even though the full moon lands very early on Sunday morning, 3:17 a.m. to be exact, we're going to count Saturday as an honorary full moon day because it is building and building and building and building, and a lot of us will be asleep at the time that it exacts on Sunday morning. We'll still feel the full moon feels on Sunday, but just know that Saturday it's building, and people might be a little wacky, okay? People might be a little emotional, people might be a little volatile. Just keep in mind and send people puppies because we're all having our own full moon story. We're all having our own Pluto story. And a lot of those stories are intense for a lot of people. So have compassion with yourself, have compassion with others. And Saturday's lunar aspects pulls in a lot of aspects that are baked into the full moon on Sunday. So firstly, the day starts off with the Capricorn moon sextile Saturn in Pisces. So it's again around being grounded, but also seeing the higher perspective, right? And with moon sextile Saturn doing what helps you stay grounded amidst these more volatile energies. Around 5:49, the Capricorn moon squares off with Chiron in Aries, which could make you feel a little bit more triggered, especially when it relates to what it is that you have built. Like that's going to be a theme with Capricorn. Of course, it's going to differ in life arena based on where it's located within your chart, but with the energy of Capricorn moon, there could be this energy around feeling like your contributions aren't being acknowledged, which makes you feel like not good enough. There could be an energy around wanting to soothe yourself inwardly via your accomplishments or being successful enough or being acknowledged enough. Like a lot of us with this full moon, whether it's a boss or not, a lot of us are really looking at where it is that we have been seeking validation that never ultimately came. Like when we take it to the butterfly brokerage incident, you wanted your agency lead's respect. You wanted her validation because you felt like you could finally validate yourself if you validated yourself within her eyes. And she starved you of that validation that you were looking for. Yes, you did build success there and you were motivated to build success, but you never fully felt appreciated by her, which instead of acknowledging, okay, that might be, bad leadership on your part, you felt like you had to fill in the gap. You felt like it was a personal failing. You felt like you had to work harder. You had to double your quota and feeling like you would finally be valid if you were validated within this person's eyes. And that might not show up with bosses for everyone. That could show up within a love interest, right, that you're pursuing because they're unavailable, because you want to win them, because that proves something to you. You could find this when it comes to fixing a certain relationship around, if I can't make this relationship work, then I am not lovable. And with this full moon on Pluto, there could be something in our life that is crumbling. And with the square to Chiron, there could be this energy around, if only I was better, then this wouldn't crumble. Then I wouldn't have to leave butterfly brokerage. Then I would feel valid in the eyes of my boss. Then this relationship would have worked out. And Pluto energy is ultimately around things that are out of our control. And sometimes it's just best to surrender and to not take it too personally. And even if you weren't looking to be validated in the eyes of your boss, who would always make snarky comments and to never congratulate your wins and what have you, Even if it's not that, it could be this energy around, well, if I leave butterfly brokerage, I'm going to feel like a loser. Like, what will all of those years that I built my business be for? And again, this effort around needing to portray yourself in a certain way or have a certain reputation, that could be holding you back from growth. Part of the process of growth is looking dumb. Like, I'm sure the butterfly, right when it comes out of the cocoon, it's flying a little wonky and it's not feeling like you have to be at the end result. There could be an energy with this full moon building at 29 degrees around being like, but then if I leave this place, I have to start from ground zero. But you're not. You're taking all of those lessons and you're continuing on. And maybe that pressure you're putting yourself on around, I need to be this thing, or it's important for me to be seen in this particular way, that could be holding you back from growth. And it's important to know that your value and your success and your ambition, it doesn't crumble along with leaving butterfly brokerage, right? It does not crumble along with this particular position that didn't work out, this particular relationship that didn't work out. It does not crumble with it. You take it with you. Like, you built that, and yes, maybe now it's crumbling, but that doesn't mean that the self that you built in that process crumbles as well. It doesn't mean anything about you if that relationship didn't work out, that business didn't work out, whatever it is. Because the energy of Pluto, it's like there's just certain things within our life that could just feel like they are crumbling, and we've tried everything for it to not. And with the square to Chiron, there can be an energy around, if only I was this, if only I was that, or who am I without this tower that's now crumbling? But you're taking all of that wisdom of who you became while building that tower and taking it to the next stage of your journey with Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius in this full moon. The Capricorn moon will trine Uranus. So again, arms wide open to change, arms wide open to innovation. On Sunday, July 21st, at 3:17 a.m., we have the Capricorn full moon. And this is essentially a spotlight within your chart on a story that could have started in 2008, much like the protagonist within our vibe check. And again, maybe it wasn't so literal for you. Maybe you were like 12 in 2008. You might be like, well, Haley Comet, I don't know what exactly transformative journey I've been on since I was 12. But there is an energy with this full moon at the final degree of Capricorn around looking back at how far we've come since then, on how we have transformed during that time, around how we have had to shed and rebuild, how we have had to deconstruct and reconstruct within that life arena, how we have had to tap into our power, how we have had to surrender, how we have had to release. It's like being at the top of the mountain, looking down and be like, wow, I came far. And it's like, even though my time with butterfly brokerage is over and I'm at the end of my rope and there's really nothing else I can do here, there's nothing else I can accomplish here, I've done what I can do, I can appreciate all that it took to get me here and even be able to leave this position with just some respect of what it taught me and appreciation for myself that took me up this mountain, that overcame these burdens and these hurdles and these obstacles. Who got me through it? I got me through it, because that's the energy of Pluto. Pluto can take a lot from us, okay? That's the thing about Pluto. When you look at the house that Pluto's been transiting, you might have found that it took away a lot from you in that arena, but you know what it didn't take away? It did not take away your resilience. It did not take away your strength. It did not take away from the power that it took for you to carry on when everything in you wanted to give up. No one can take that away from you. Even if this position is no longer a fit, even if this relationship did not work out, even if you have to move, no one can take from you what you learned during that time, what you accomplished during that time. No one can take that from you. And so acknowledge that journey and know that this story is to be continued. Pluto will retrograde back into this territory of the sky this fall, and that's the utter finale. Pluto will never be in Capricorn again during our lifetimes after its final tour this fall. So with this full moon, it's acknowledging that story, how far you've come in that arena. So part of this full moon is looking back on how far you've come, and part of this full moon is around looking to the future, because this full moon's at 29 degrees Capricorn, and it's aligned with Pluto, who is at 0 degrees Aquarius. And so it's 1 foot in the work that we've done since 2008 and 1 foot in the new transformation that awaits, which we don't have a whole lot of clarity around. Of course, you could have been hinted at your Pluto and Aquarius work since this transit began in March 2023, but a lot is unclear. And that's kind of the point. is facing the fear of the unknown and choosing who you are evolving rather than who it is that you have been. There are so little guarantees in life. There's so little that we definitively know for sure. And part of the journey of transformation is trusting in yourself, so much so that you're willing to face the unknown. And so part of this also could be signaling the next journey, which in the vibe check, you don't know quite yet. Maybe it's starting your own brokerage company. Maybe it's traveling. Maybe it's abandoning real estate. Who knows? Because Pluto's at 0 degrees. This is a degree that's around pure potentiality. I always think of it as like an egg, right? 0. It's like pure potential. We don't know what this egg is going to hatch and be quite yet. Pluto's a long journey, and we're in the long haul until 2044. So the journey will continue, but we might be getting clues potentially with that full moon on it, especially with this full moon sextiling Neptune. So make sure to check out the full moon forecast to get more information on this, but definitely pay attention to what within your life you are feeling called to transform, to evolve, what fears you are being asked to face, what ahas are bubbling from your subconscious that are driving transformation. Pay attention, not just for the story that you're wrapping up, but the story that you are initiating. So the full moon lands at 3:17 a.m., but the entire day is charged with those full moon feels, right? With the moon entering Aquarius at 4:43, trining Mars, conjoining Pluto, there could definitely be some intensity brewing. But in the midst of it, the cosmos gave us a little gift. Now it's subtle. With all sextiles, it's very subtle, but the benefics have a little harmonious flow. We have Venus in Leo sextiling Jupiter in Gemini. Some of us could just feel this around. We're spending a lot of money. We're wanting to have fun. We're like, listen, life is intense. A lot is going on. I deserve a little shopping spree. I deserve to go to the beach. I deserve to hang out with some friends and just vent about this week, because what was that? There could just be an energy where we're wanting to have some fun, because that's the thing about Pluto energy. It can make us pretty morbid, pretty existential. And sometimes those existential feelings can lead to dread and doom and fear. But sometimes it can lead to this energy around, if we really acknowledge that life is finite, we're wanting to seize it. There could be an energy where it's like, well, I don't really know where I stand with my brokerage company, but I'm gonna go to the beach, right? It's summer after all, right? I might be making these big, important decisions, but I deserve to have some fun and put on a crop top and go out dancing with my friends. There could just be a slight, subtle, fun vibe. Do keep in mind, typically with full moons, we are in the mood to party and celebrate, and Venus sextile Jupiter could have some of us in the mood to do that, but I just want to say some of us might be feeling a little more heavy, but maybe the partying and celebrating is helping you move some energy, potentially. Now, if you choose to celebrate or go out dancing, somebody might tell you some shocking tea, some unexpected news. And we see this with Mercury squaring Uranus at 3:21 p.m. So this could be something you hear, this could be something that you read that catches you by surprise. Like, what now? This could be a conversation that goes a different way than you anticipated. And again, sometimes that could be, oh, I did not expect you to say that. Sometimes it could be, I did not expect me to say that. Because like I said, with Sun sextile Uranus earlier this week, some of us are playing with a new role where it's like, okay, typically I've just been someone at this brokerage who just is grateful for the business, just keeps my mouth shut. But with Mercury square Uranus, it's like, I'm surprising myself by what's coming out of my mouth and the ways that I'm advocating for myself. Editing Haley here again. Just a heads up to particularly note what unexpected news or conversations that you do have with Mercury square Uranus, as this aspect will repeat during the Mercury retrograde that we have coming up within August 2024. So there may be more developments, this ongoing story. There may be more twists and turns. So there definitely could be unexpected conversations, but also just epiphanies, seeing something different. Mentally, you could be feeling quite restless. And that's why I was saying there comes to be a point where your mind is no longer helping the situation. It's just kind of adding more to it. And with Mercury square Uranus, your mind might feel all over the place. You might have a hard time focusing. You might be feeling a little bit more scattered, erratic. We could be a little bit more impulsive with our words. So just something to be mindful of. And again, just trying to see that higher dimension, because that evening, the Cancer Sun trines Neptune in Pisces. So even if you're frustrated about a situation, seeing where it is that you can send love, send puppies to all involved, including yourself, work that muscle around, okay, the divine must be aligning something for me. Because there could be part of you in that final altercation with your boss that wants to prove a point, that wants to cling to it and fight for this is the commission split and make it a huge drama and all of these things. There's part of you that wants to do that, the ego part potentially. But then there's a bigger part of you that's just telling you, let go, surrender, We've got you. We're taking you into the next chapter of your life. Spirit has been orchestrating things behind the scene. Let go. You don't need to fight so hard. You don't need to cling so hard to something that is leaving, and potentially working that muscle around trusting that the divine's got you, that it's all going to work out. And with Mars trine Pluto that evening as well, it's important to know that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. And so no, even if you're being asked to walk away from something that you invested a lot of energy into, you take all those lessons with you into the next iteration of your journey, and it was not a waste of time. There could be part of you, this final altercation, walking away from butterfly brokerage, that wants to be mad around, oh, what was I doing for the last 16 years? But it taught you, right? Now we got Mars and Gemini. If you're learning, you're living. And you take all that knowledge with you into the next stage of your evolution. And maybe it's just a wiser use of energy rather than fighting in this final altercation and fighting tooth and nail. There could just be an energy around, I just think it's time for me to move on. Clearly, we're just not in alignment, and I'm just going to take all this energy that I would invest in this fight and just take it elsewhere. And so, my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I let go with grace and gratitude. And sometimes that can be the most challenging thing to do, is to let go with grace and gratitude, especially if we have deserved frustration, angst around a situation. We may want to cling to it to prove a point, or exact revenge on it, or prove to the other person or that they are not a great business person. But there just gets to be a point where you realize, I think just my work here is done. This just isn't worth my fighting and my battling any longer. I just feel that my transformation is taking me in a new direction, and I let go with grace and gratitude. And grace is because this energy of Neptune, just honoring that the divine is orchestrating things for you, having grace with the person, having grace with the situation, honoring that this is all spiritual life school and their souls doing the best that they can and they're on their own journey, and having grace for what it is that potentially they could be going through and how that could be influencing their treatment of you. Having grace with that, again, doesn't validate behavior, but just having grace around, we're all trying our best, right? And with gratitude around honoring all that you've learned, really having gratitude for all that you learned within the process, really having gratitude for who you've become in the process, really having gratitude for the strength that you have cultivated. And it could be easier sometimes to leave a relationship with bitterness, or to leave a job with bitterness, or to fight until the bitter end. But there's just an ask around, how can I just trust that this is leading to my next evolution, and to just honor this call that I'm feeling strongly to let go, to surrender, to release. Because when it comes to departing anything, when we leave something feeling very, very bitter, and really tapped into all of the ways that it was wrong, all of the ways that it mistreated us, that will be the dominant energetic within our psyche. And sometimes it could be hard to shift into something that is more aligned, because there is this leftover energetic debris around, I was so mistreated and my boss was horrible. And it's not to say that you weren't, and it's not to say that she wasn't. But it's important to just have gratitude over the situation around, you know what, it didn't pan out how I wanted it to, but I learned, it served me in these particular ways. And tapping into that more positive way of framing the situation puts you in more alignment with things that can meet you on that wavelength. Even if it's like a relationship that you were mistreated, there could be a part within you that just wants to sling all of this poison to this person, but just being able to be like, you know what, I'm grateful for the version of myself that I got to experience within this relationship, with the data that I learned that I'm taking with me into the next relationship. I'm not going to hold hatred in my heart for you. And leaving on that note, even energetically, helps you align more so into somebody who is a positive representation of what you could feel in a relationship, rather than holding on to anger and hatred. It's important how we frame things, especially endings. And for some of us, there does feel to be a call with this full moon on Pluto to let go. So if you made it to the end of forecast, go ahead and comment below the fly emoji to give a shout out to our co-host wherever he is. He did quiet down, so shout out to you, Mr. Fly. Or use the word fly within a sentence. Just let me know that you made it to the end. I'm so appreciative if you did. I want to give another warm thank you to Magic Mind. Reminder that you can get 20% off with my code COMET. That link will be within the description as well as within the pinned comment. And shout out to Magic Mind every day, but especially today, because when I say I was not in the mood today to do today's forecast, I am not feeling well, but Magic Mind helped me power through, which we might all be asked to do with this full moon on Pluto. So my Instagram handle is @HaleyCommentAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.